That's the bell that tells me it's the end of my shift. I'm done working for the day. Unfortunately, today is the last day of the period, which means I need to account for all of the costs that went through WIP this period, WIP being my face mask manufacturing facility, and figure out what I got left in ending inventory. All right, so I got my chart here, and I know what my beginning inventory was, and I know the costs I added to the period. All right, these are finished, so we're gonna put those over in finished goods. All right, but here's my ending inventory. I've got some elastic that's been cut, so there's some direct materials and labor. I got two where the material's been cut and the elastic attached. And I got some where the material's been cut, but no elastic. So I got some materials and labor there too. And of course, there's this one that's sitting on the sewing machine right now, which, you know, I'm not gonna finish because my shift is over. So how do I figure out what are the total costs? I can't just count units, 1, 2, 3, because they all have different amounts of costs in them because they're at different stages of completion. I guess I could try to estimate it. I'm gonna be here all night. There's gotta be a better way. Luckily, there is a better way for us to value our ending inventory, as well as the finished goods that have gone through a process during the period. It is called equivalent units of production, or EUP. It could be called equivalent whole units of production. Basically what we do is we look at our ending inventory and what percent complete it is. We split this between direct materials and conversion cost. And conversion cost is our direct labor and factory overhead. So we look for direct materials and we say, hey, about what percent complete is our ending inventory? And we use that estimate of completeness, percent completeness, to calculate how many whole units or equivalent of a whole unit do we have based on the amount of direct materials we have in the process, okay? So we take all of those face masks that some were just cut, some were pinned, some had elastic, some were partially sewn, and we say, for all of the direct materials that we've put into this, how many whole units could we have made? And that becomes our EUP, or equivalent units of production. Same thing with conversion. We look at all of the direct labor and factory overhead that's sitting, or that was added to the process, and that's sitting in our ending inventory, and we say what percent complete it is with respect to conversion costs, and we use that to calculate how many whole unit equivalents or equivalent units of production do we have. Then we can take all of our costs, assign them to the ending inventory and to the finished goods, and come up with a way to value not only our finished goods, but our ending inventory. Okay, so this is gonna save us a lot of time. It means I'm not gonna have to work late. I can just put in some calculations and then I can go home and watch some Netflix. Okay, or maybe a little Lovecraft Country. I don't know if anyone's watching that, but really, really trippy show. It's very good. All right, so we're gonna have 4 steps. We're going to start by determining the physical flow. This is gonna help us to understand how many units do we have in finished goods and how many units do we have in ending inventory, okay? Step 1 is gonna be all about units. We're not talking about dollars at all. Step 2, we're gonna calculate the EUP, the equivalent units of production, okay? We know how many units we see, but when we factor in what percent complete the ending inventory is, then we can come up with an equivalent of whole units that we can use to calculate our cost per unit. So we will calculate our EUP. In step 2, we are only talking about units, no dollars. All right, step 3, we're gonna start talking about dollars. We're gonna have dollars and units, but because we're gonna calculate our cost per EUP. We're gonna take all of our costs in the period, our beginning inventory, plus the direct materials added, plus the conversion added. Remember, that's adding our direct labor and factory overhead. And we're gonna divide that over our EUP, or equivalent whole units of production, to get a cost per EUP. Our final step is we're going to assign those costs. Once we know the cost per EUP and we know how many EUP is in finished goods versus ending inventory, then we can assign those costs. And the final part will be we're going to reconcile the costs. So once we've assigned them out, we want to make sure that we have assigned out all of the costs that were in our WIP in that period, which is we're going to know because we know how much total direct labor, direct factory overhead, direct materials we added, and we know what our beginning inventory is. Okay, so there is a worksheet. I want you to follow along with me as you go through this. The worksheet will be on the page for step 1, so make sure you download that. Either print it out or have it on a second screen so you can be filling it out with me. Remember, don't just fill out the numbers, put in the formulas because the formulas are the part that is important. That's what you're going to need. And then there's going to be a second worksheet you can either do on your own or we can do it together. And then you'll be off to do some homework and some quizzes and to make sure you understand the concepts. As always, please feel free to come to office hours or send me an email, go to the Q&A forum. Office hours has been a little late, so I would love to have you join me if you have any questions and we can work through this together. All right, so I'm gonna go do my quick EUP calculations and then I'm gonna head out for the night. See you in the next video.